Welcome to this session on the PowerPack for Advanced Steel. We're going to be taking a look at our new cage ladder macro. You'll find it under the Stairs and Railings palette, under the Cage Ladder tab, and you'll see the command here. You need to select a base point in the model. To start the ladder, you can then select either a second point in the model or drag your cursor up. Using F8 on the keyboard as well to set your ortho, you can enter any particular value that you require in here. So I'm going to enter that value, and you'll see that the ladder will now appear up the side of the dummy wall that I've created. So we can see that in place here. And if we move to the definition tab, we can see that the height that we've defined is here, that I typed in. The width of the ladder is here. All these can be adjusted. Also, there's parameters to change the bias of the width layout as well, where the measurement's taken. If you want to rotate the ladder, you can enter a rotation figure. If you wish the ladder to be at an incline, it can also be changed within the dialog. If we just change to the cage here, we're going to enable the cage, and we'll see the cage appear to the side of the ladder body itself. And with that, all the parameters become active within here. The radius of the cage, the distance from the runs, etc., the start height. And also, you can enter a figure in here to actually offset the top of the cage downwards if you so need for a particular arrangement. So in that case, I just moved it down slightly. Maybe I missed the run here. Maybe I might change this to be bolted later on, so I know there's going to be a clash in there. If we move to the ladder, we can see that the ladder is set up fully automatically to work out the number of runs here. If you uncheck the boxes in sequence, you can actually influence the number of runs by the first unchecking. The second uncheck, you can actually come in and access the run rise field itself, entering in the desired measurement that you require. So if you want them all spaced equally, but the remainder value to be smaller at the start of the ladder, that can be controlled here. This is also being influenced by what we've called constraints. You have a maximum height for the ladder, which will go into the ladder field itself, and run rise, maximum and minimums. First run height as well is controlled. Also, you can define the section profile here. Changing it here will actually change it under the ladder page within the dialog. And also, you can save this configuration to what we've called a standards library. So this can be set as a default and recalled later on. Similarly here, we can see obviously the cage itself. We have a series of primary controls here. By number, by distance, changing that toggle will affect the fields below. You can enter values as required. And again, we have a series of constraints here to inform the user if obviously the ladder is outside of those values for any reason at all. And again, you can control the section profile sizes here, and all this can be stored as a standard library entry and set as a default, same as with the ladder to be recalled later. If we just move to the ladder itself, the ladder page, you'll see here that we're actually pulling through some of those constraint values and obviously controlling the style position here as well. And depending on what section type you select, you have a series of options in here to either flip it or rotate it. Also, the run itself here is controlled. The sizes come through from the constraint. And an important one here is actually the connection to the ladder itself. So if we just zoom in a little bit there, we can see at the moment it's on penetration. If we change it to cut, the hole will disappear on the outside edge. And obviously the boxes become inactive. So let's just put that back to penetration. We'll see the hole come back in. You have a series of other options here to extend or shorten the run as required and influence the hole clearance. If I move to the welds tab, this is pretty standard for our sort of dialogues. But if you look here, we have a slight change. We have both external and internal. If I adjust it to internal, you'll see that one of the weld features actually disappear from the dialog here. So this option gives you the option to control how you want to place the welds, just on the inside of the ladder or both when you've got a penetration situation and you wish to seal it off. So if we just move to the exit arrangement within the ladder itself, so let's just pan up to the top of the ladder. So at the moment we're on a straight extended, and with this we can see that we've activated the runs additional. So that's these series of runs within here. They're controlled independently from the main ladder body itself. If you wish to deactivate them, you can uncheck that there. Also, if you don't wish an exit, you can uncheck it. I'm just going to change this to displayed loop over type, and we'll see now this arrangement appear within the exit. That leads us to the exit details. This tab is now fully active. Within here, we can come in and we can influence what's going on by changing a series of key measurements within here. I'm just going to move the return exit element over, and also obviously it's slightly too long. I can see that it's clashing with the wall there, so I'm going to reduce it down in its height. Similarly, I can control the joint at this point within the actual ladder. So I'm actually going to sort of now change it to a butt. I can actually move it to be on a top loop as well. So that'll change the cut direction here. We've allowed a little option in here to put a convex feature on the corner if you so wish. Runs additional is obviously disabled. If we just move to this other element here, this is a new feature that we added in. It's called the step off. You activate it here and you'll see a mini little platform appear between the ladder body and obviously the area it's supporting against. Again, you have options in here now available to control its section size, its length, etc. and obviously its alignment. You can make a small adjustment here. For example, typing a figure in here, you'll see that the support body will move upwards. If we now change to step off 2, we can see here that we're actually using this to control the spacings between the step off runs as well, and obviously control their section size. And again, you have similar things for the weld penetration arrangements that we saw in the main ladder itself. Let's just move to ladder supports, and if we enable the ladder supports, we'll see the series of them appear within the main ladder itself. So now you can see those have appeared within the ladder body. Obviously their positioning is controlled here, their alignment inside or outside. Obviously you have options to flip them as well, maximum spacing distances. And if you notice, like for example, you have a localized clash, you can actually click into a cell here and type in a figure and actually move a local position. So I'm just moving that one down 50 millimeters. If we come over here, this is actually controlling the configuration of the support, its basic geometry, its thickness, its depth, etc., the return lengths and etc. there. Also, you can influence the hole diameter within here. If you don't require a hole in the return leg, a little tip, you can enter 0 in there and the hole will be removed, thus avoiding a double hole feature. But if you just want a hole and you're not worried about providing the fixing details separately, you can type that back in and the hole will reappear. Similarly, you have options to control the fixing of the support to the ladder. I'm doing this with bolts now, and you can see that the bolts will appear, and that actually activates the bolts tab. Here you have options to control and select the size and type of bolt available. The location as well is available, and also you can invert the bolt if you so wish. If you wish to change the head direction, etc. And you have positional control as well. Let's just move back to the cage again. So we're looking at the main cage at the moment. So this is the main cage body. The cage is split into two elements, the main and the exit. We come to the straps, we can see the basis of how this works. We do it by segmentation or total length. Changing that will influence the tree dialog you see and the number of segments available. By total length, we'll consider the whole cage as one element. By default, it's set to by segments, and there's individual control within each segment here. If you look, this changes slight difference here by max distance or by number. For section 1, we have by number, and we defaulted it to 1, and it's positioned there. It has a start offset value that you can place within that if you so wish. Obviously, there's options to weld it. You can see them there, and that's for the strap to the hoop, and obviously the hoop to the style. If you wish to change those, you can come back in here and change these two drop down boxes here. If you change that to bolted, it'll appear and the bolts will appear, and obviously the bolts will appear to the style and the hoop itself. That also activates these two tabs here that work very similarly to how the support element was shown earlier on. If we come to the exit cage, we can actually enable the exit cage, and this will form the element around the exit zone of the ladder, extending the cage element up. Again, you can see the cage body has now appeared, and a lot of this is grayed out because we're actually enabling the cage and we're actually using the main cage settings below. If you wish to activate this and change it and do it differently, you can uncheck this box here. Obviously the hoop height can be controlled independent of the ladder height, so if I type that in there, you'll see that it will drop down. And similarly here, obviously we have different options in here, system line or outer edge. You can change the number of hoops that you require within the exit zone. So I'm just going to put 2 in there, and it's going to place 2 equally spaced hoops within that arrangement. Obviously the exit width is linked to the ladder. So obviously if you change the exit width, the ladder or cage will reconfigure. The strap arrangement, again, same as main, so it's inactive, but if you wish to change it, you can change it to influence how you wish to distribute the straps within in there. Bolt cage and bolt ladder is the same as we had for the main cage, and we have the same options here, same as main cage checkbox. Finally, to close out, we obviously have a library entry where you can create your own library entry just by hitting the save button. This is fairly typical to our macros, and you can also set that to be your default library entry, which will pull back that exact configuration, including its height and other parameters. So that concludes the ladder itself. And just a small example here, this is like the final ladder sort of finished, and I added in a couple of joints here to fix obviously the return hoop down to the retaining wall on the edge. So that concludes the cage ladder macro as part of the PowerPack for advanced steel.